You're listening to a Raconteur Studios podcast.
Which is wild. That's like saying I'm a pilot. But no, I'm a real pilot. It's like, you just wouldn't have known, looking at her in Y-fronts on her top, that she could actually technically also cut you open, remove a huge...
Oh, injectables, you don't have to even have the term dermatologist. That is actually the most terrifying side of it.
What do you know that I don't know? Like, I wrote you off.
Welcome to the After Hours Skin Clinic, the podcast where we talk skin, science, and the stories that don't always make it into the clinic notes. I'm Dr Emma Craythorne, consultant dermatologist and your host. And today I'm joined by my really brilliant, hilarious and ever curious best friend, Amy Thomson. Amy gets embarrassed very easily, and she is actually probably one of the most wonderful women in terms of the businesses that she's created, the way that she sees trends more than anyone else ever can and can always spot what's going to happen next, and just an absolute advocate of all of her friends and women and everyone just in general. So Amy has honestly brought her biggest skincare questions to me for... Gosh, I worked this out actually.
50 years.
It's nearly 30, it's about 30 years.
It's 30 years.
It's 30 years since you first phoned me whenever I lived in Dundee. I was at university at medical school, and you were like this super high powered, absolutely demon of the electronic dance music world. And that's actually before the term electronic dance music had even been coined. It was before David Guetta was even conceived of an idea of a DJ.
Come on, he's 73. Come on now.
So we've had questions from university time all the way through our multiple forays through the various parts of our lives, from husbands,
husbands,
Ibiza,
holidays,
parties.
sunburn, on my side, obviously.
This is going to be a really honest chat. It's the kind of conversation that we have whenever we catch up with each other, which is often. And Amy always has skincare questions for me that I always give her answers on, and she actually rarely follows my advice.
I'm the worst.
So whether you're a skincare obsessive or just here for a bit of fun, welcome. You're in really good company. Can we just start with the story of us first?
There's too many.
There are too many, but what do you think is the story or a time that summarises us?
I think Ibiza. So to put everyone in the picture here, I ran nightclubs in Ibiza in the summer and managed a lot of the DJs that were performing there, and so did all the marketing for those shows and all of that stuff. And I was also a very young mum at the time. And Emma was recommended to me by someone, and so she came out and she ran the parties. You know, she'd have all these different flyer people working for her. This is before really mobile phones as such, before electronic advertising. So you're talking physical paper flyers, paper posters, and really having to get the word out. Although Emma would always say that it was absolutely vital that she was at every other nightclub, because that's how she got the word out. So, you know, you'd be there on the Tuesday with the day before being like, where is she? Like, she's at DC 10. She was wearing the T-shirt of the night we were doing, whatever. Although granted, she'd always customise her clothes. So one time at Space in Ibiza, she was actually wearing men's Y fronts, but as like an off the shoulder, one shoulder top, because she's so tiny, annoyingly, she can put her arm through like a man's pant hole, like put it over her. And she had this massive fake hairdo with all these fake blonde sort of curls that would go down to her bum. But we used to have these parties, and then afterwards we would all go back to the villa where we shared a villa all summer, and we'd have these wonderful days cooking Delia Smith's new recipe book, because the internet wasn't really invented. So we'd have the Delia summer book, and we'd be making these Parma ham dishes or whatever. I would drink so much a couple of times a season, not all the time, but I would drink so much that I would end up throwing up. And Emma would come in, and her recipe was always a fresh mint tea and McDonald's fries. And she'd come in just like, hello, and like feed me these salty fries so I could just kind of keep up with her antics. But I would say that Ibiza was the beginning of the end in so many ways. Yeah, they were very fun times, Emma. But also I have to say, every summer you'd come and every summer I'd be like, you must be done now with medical school. Like, you must be done. You must be finished now, like 10 years in. And no one could contemplate that she was going back in September to properly be a doctor. You know, we were all like, oh yeah, very funny. And then it's just like, oh no, she's actually like one of the best doctors, you know, in the world in her field. You just wouldn't have known looking at her in Y fronts on her top that she could actually technically also cut you open, remove a huge, you know, keloid, whatever it is, and 20 years later she'd be on television doing exactly that. So yeah, Ibiza. I'll always have Ibiza to like bring it down when her ego gets too big, you know.
I had to go to give a talk in San Diego at the American
Oh no.
at the American Academy of Dermatologists, and I'd been invited to give a talk about skin presentations of hematological malignancies. This is a huge meeting where all the dermatologists pretty much around the world go to, and this was on the big stage at this particular meeting. And Amy was managing a band, and that band was playing at the Venetian, I think, in Las Vegas. And Amy said to me, but if you're going to San Diego, you could just stop and change in Las Vegas and meet me there. And I thought, yeah, of course I can do that. So I landed in Las Vegas to meet you. And you said, we're just going to go and get our hair done and a fake tan because we're in Las Vegas. And we spent so much money. Well, we got the bill and I nearly died because, you know, I was not long out of medical school thinking, oh my gosh. You then just put your hair up after having it all blow dried because you thought it was ridiculous. Yeah. And we went out that night, had a brilliant night, actually won the money back on the tables that paid for the blow dry. That's a rough introduction to a little bit of life with Emma and Amy over the last 30 years. Yeah. Okay, do you want to start asking me some of the questions that you always ask and only sometimes you pay any attention to? Like, you do put your clearer on, you're very good at that.
I do use clearer every day, and we'll come on to clearer, but I want to go back to the beginning of clearer and your concept for clearer. I was been marketed to my whole life by people saying you have oily, dry, combination or normal skin, and there's a billion creams that say they'll do X, Y, Z, and thankfully never really had problem skin, so I would never really have had to be like, oh my gosh, what's happening. But how many skin types are there, Emma Craythorne?
Well, it kind of boils down to the most important skin type is obviously the skin type that you have. To try and lump everyone into a single pigeonhole to say, yes, you have dry skin, yes, you have combination skin, it just doesn't work like that. Because what does even combination skin mean? You've got a bit of dry and a bit of oily, but like where? And so whenever we think of the skin as dermatologists, we think about dividing it up into almost how the skin functions. So one of the aspects of your skin is your skin barrier. So the job of that is to keep all of the bad things out and to keep all of the good things in. And everyone's skin barrier functions in a slightly different way. So, for example, somebody with eczema, they have a bit of a defect in one of their genes and don't make the skin barrier in such a strong way. Other people make a very, very strong skin barrier. So everyone sits on a kind of spectrum of how good or bad their skin barrier might be. But that's just one element. Another element is thinking about how oily your skin might be. So actually, you make sebum from your sebaceous glands.
Also, can we just talk about the elephant in the room? Sebum is such a funny word, isn't it?
You only think it's funny because it sounds like semen.
Exactly. When they were doing the like inventions for like what they should call everything, was it semen or sebum that came first? Which one nicked the other one? And have you ever slipped up and go, when you've been like, the sebum on your face, have you ever said the other word by accident?
Yeah, I have, in a podcast.
Oh!
I once had to talk about Demodex mites, which are these little spider mites that live in your skin if you've got rosacea. Actually, everybody has them, but more if you've got rosacea. And what they do is they live down your follicles and then they come out of your follicles and they are on the surface of your skin at nighttime and they copulate and they gobble up your sebum. I said, yeah, these little mites, they live in the follicles and then they come up at night time and they kind of copulate and
do they get
gobble up, and then gobble up the semen.
But does their semen get on my sebum?
They don't have
Oh, they
semen
don't have
because they're
any
mites.
semen?
Yeah, no. Well,
Gosh.
a kind of
I
derivative
feel
of
like
it.
medical professionals should get together and like try and make the words a bit more different. Anyway, do continue.
So if you think about how much sebum your skin makes, some people make a lot, some people don't make very much, some people make it very thick and sticky, other people make it very thin and runny.
So far, I'm just saying. Yeah, sorry, do continue.
It's important to know where you are on that scale. Okay, so you got your barrier, you've got your sebum. You then have something called sensitivity. So whenever you think about how reactive your skin might be, and we then have something that we think about in terms of the dryness levels of your skin, so how much water you're letting evaporate out. And then we also have an element to your skin, how it reacts after it's been injured, because we have these things called melanocytes, which make our pigment. And for some people, they're a bit more sensitive, those melanocytes, and little bits of ultraviolet radiation or say a spot that's healed over might leave brown marks behind. So some people have these brown splodgy marks and other people don't. For example, you, across the top of your forehead, if you're not very good with your SPF, and down the sides of your face, would be prone to those little patches of brown. And that's not a tan. That
I
is,
thought it was a tan.
no, that's melasma. I've told her that again, didn't listen.
I got melasma.
No, you don't now because your clearer has fixed it. But do you remember you used to have those little...
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Oh, okay. But in English, because all of that was a lot. So if we were at dinner now, which was what this podcast was about, and we're on bottle of Chablis number 3, or I am anyway, how many skin types are there, Emma?
So when we think about...
Just need a number.
12.
Hey! So there's essentially 12 skin types, and then there's sort of subtypes within those 12.
Yes, there's a spectrum within those 12.
Right. Because that's where you blew my mind a few years ago when I was like, what are you talking about? And skin sizes were kind of born, which is the way Clearer operates. You go 1, 2, 3, number 12.
Because it's too complicated to give somebody all of that and they have to remember. So I just say, okay, this is your skin size.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we could have just said 12 and not had to go through the sebum and the sebum and all of this stuff. But there's 12. And so you base your philosophy, your practice, your clearer line, and the way you approach talking to all of your friends. We've never had a conversation about oily, dry skin, have we? You categorize skin like it's on a spectrum. And so what you campaign for, especially in like whether you have your own line or not, in people not wasting money, wasting plastic and filling landfills with products they don't need, feeling disappointed, feeling sad if their skin is affecting them, which, I'm really lucky with my skin, but I know and have friends or friends' children that, it's a big thing if your skin isn't what you want it to be. You're trying to reprogram against a lot of money in the marketing world, aren't you? Where we've not been lied to, we're not really saying that, but you're asking people to be like, essentially, your skin is your own and it's unique to you. So there is no packet of something that is just going to be available to you in a choice of 4 colours or whatever, however way they do it, that is going to work for your unique, rather wonderful skin. Yeah, right?
That's exactly right. So this idea that someone's got a single cream and that single cream is going to be the cure-all for absolutely everyone, that doesn't exist. I mean, even the most wonderful creams that I know and love is not going to be suitable for all skin types. Even the most bland, most generic cream is not going to be suitable for everyone. Everyone is unique and their skin has very different needs. And this idea of dividing people into skin sizes, it means that you can start to pigeonhole a little bit about, okay,
get into
you try this SPF because most people in your skin size get on really well with this SPF.
Yeah.
So that you don't then have to trial and error a whole lot of other ones that, a bit like what you say, they're heavily marketed. They have a lot of spend behind them and they're expensive.
And you're just like whamming out money and you don't really know what's going on. Now, the second biggest thing that you taught me was that so many of the ingredients that you need within good skincare for your personal unique skin type is really not available in the strength that you need over the counter. So when you see a lot of products that are, saying collagen or retinoid or vitamin C, or what you're saying is that that's amazing, but it's not the ingredient itself, it is the strength of the ingredient. Is that correct?
It's a combination of both. It is the ingredient and it's the strength.
Yeah.
Whenever we're making our products clearer, for example, or how you should think about things, is that whenever you have a problem with your skin. So I'm going to delve into the problem side first. When you have a perceived problem with your skin, there have been so many studies over decades and decades to show in order which ingredients actually work. And there's also been multiple studies to show which strength of those ingredients actually work. And the vast majority of those are actually not available in your average cream that you buy over the counter. So for somebody who has acne or rosacea or melasma, which you had, or they've got aging of the skin that is kind of earlier than what they would want or hope for, so things like lines and wrinkles and blood vessels and all of these things, we know that these gold standard ingredients with massively high levels of evidence exist. And we know that they work reproducibly. Most of them have an FDA license to show that they're going to work reproducibly at specific dosages. They are the things that work. Everything else is often a derivative of it and has nowhere near the level of evidence to kind of support its use compared to something like most of the ingredients that we would use in our formulations.
I think it's interesting because in other industries where there is a self-confidence factor, so people are willing to pay, buy, try, whatever. And then there are buzzwords, aren't there? And then you just fly, especially when it's a medical thing, you just fly, oh my God, that's got that in it. And it's like, yeah, cool. But it's like saying there's gravy on your roast dinner and it's on 1p. That's not a gravy, is it? I mean, it's not in my world anyway. So
and I know your roast dinners.
Yorkshire pudding and the whole thing has to be drowning in it. Now, another thing that you taught me that was terrifying to me, I think as a parent also, my daughter is 25 with beautiful skin.
Stunning
skin. Is that I didn't understand the difference between a consultant dermatologist and a dermatologist. Now, I also am quite savvy, don't trust anybody. And, you know, I didn't know that a dermatologist, and please no disrespect to any dermatologists out there that are doing a great job and all of that, because I'm so used to seeing doctor or professor in front of somebody from whom I can take medical advice. As soon as it got into the world of dermatology, I assumed dermatologist meant doctor. And that is not true. Is that right?
That's right. The term dermatologist is not a protected term by any means.
Which is wild. That's like saying I'm a pilot. But no, I'm a real pilot.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
That is wild.
So essentially anybody can call themselves a dermatologist, but it becomes then really confusing if you're trying to seek out medical advice in that particular sphere. So the term, if you've gone to medical school, completed all of your training, completed an actual 5-year training with a fellowship in dermatology, you're then called a consultant dermatologist. And that's why you kept laughing. Gosh, you're doing another exam? Are you doing another test? Surely you're finished.
Yeah,
and I was like, no.
Are we done yet? Like, come on now. The medical profession maybe need to have a little word with other people just about everything sounding so similar, although this isn't their fault this time. To be able to be called any version of that high graded medical certified skill, being a consultant dermatologist, to have a baby version of it called a dermatologist. I mean, this is wild to me. And and I know you've done campaigning for exactly this, but it's like, how is that allowed?
Yeah, to me, I agree with you. I just think it's horrifying in a way that people can use terms like that. And the only reason the vast majority of people are using terms like that, if they're not actually a consultant dermatologist, I can't see anything other than being misleading. You know, you can use the term a dermatology specialist or a GP with an interest in dermatology or working in dermatology. But the vast majority of people, if you're putting the term dermatologist on something, to the general public, that suggests that you are a dermatologist. We ran a study through social media and we just asked people to rate profiles to say, what do you think the level of education of this person is? And without exception, they all thought that these people had been to medical school, had, finished their dermatology training. So whether or not people might be doing it innocently, and I'm sure some people are doing it innocently, what is perceived by the public if they see the term dermatologist.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yes. And then often people will go to these, vast majority of doctors to be fair, but will go to the dermatologist expecting a level of treatment, which in many cases can actually be delivered because so many people have got a really high level of care and understanding of that field. But there is still that sticking point of that person thinks that you are somebody different because of what you've
100%. The marketing
yourself
of it
as.
is atrocious. It's like just to have anything ist almost. You just assume exams, experience, you know, and obviously, you know, no offense, but you can have a terrible doctor, you can have a terrible dentist, you can have a terrible whatever, and accidents happen or whatever. But I genuinely did not understand that a dermatologist was not someone like you.
Yeah.
I did not understand that. And I thought that that was absolutely terrifying, especially when you see younger people taking the risks. And some of this stuff is irreversible. You know, the mental impact of you get older, you wrinkle a bit, like get on with it. But to not know that those people were the right people to go to for that thing in the first place and their mistake or their inexperience, and what comeback do you then have? Like, plus it doesn't even matter. Even if you could sue them for the way, you know, you look after you've been to see them, it's tough, isn't it? You've got to walk around looking like that or have the side effects or infections or whatever it is you're going to get there. Couldn't believe it when you told me that.
The British Association of Dermatologists have recently, because I think primarily with a lot of lobbying from the consultant dermatologists.
Good.
They have now issued what's called a blue tick scheme, a bit like a verified scheme that you might see on Instagram or something like that. And so if you're registered with them, then you can use this blue tick. But the problem with it is it's not really that well advertised. So I still think that people don't really get it and don't really completely understand. So I think that scheme has to be advertised a lot more so that the general public can understand
100%.
it. But it is terrifying, the injectable idea, if you think you're seeing a dermatologist. But, you know, there are lots of really good injectors out there who aren't dermatologists. I mean, they're wonderful injectors who do a really good job. But what I find quite terrifying is somebody going for something to somebody they think is a dermatologist, showing them a lesion on their skin. You know, when we think of how many lesions we have to see and treat and go through our training, that it's harder for someone like us to dismiss something. You know, our radar is peaked and we're going to pick things up. But it's the things like the missed melanomas, the missed skin cancers, the things that are maybe frozen off or treated with a laser. You know, I have seen melanomas on the face treated by a laser by somebody thinking it was a patch of melasma, you know, and they were seen by somebody who thought they were a dermatologist. You know, so the person was fine in the end and all is good. But that is actually the most terrifying side of it.
It's literally like thinking like I'm going to go and see the dentist and then realising it afterwards it was a vet. Do you know what I mean? Not even, because they're actually both qualified.
I was going to say a vet's fine.
Okay, I don't know what the equivalent of a dentist is. Like, that's so terrifying to me. Now, the other terrifying thing that you told me, and I'm just going to...
Jeez, I just like spend my life terrifying you, it seems.
I mean, well, you know, this is normally like 2% of our dinner, so it's fine. Okay, Emma will growl now, and I apologise in advance, but I vape like a chimney. It's my absolute... I know. It's my Achilles heel. I know I need to stop.
Well, it's better than smoking.
Yeah, I know I need to stop. But you know, Emma, I suffered from anxiety.
It just makes you worse. I've already told you that.
I know.
More nicotine just makes you more anxious.
Now you can see how our dinners go. This is pudding, okay? So I'm so black and white. Yeah, well, you know. Now, I was shocked when I went to your TV show launch and a lovely lady said what actually breaks down collagen. And obviously one thing was sunshine, right?
Yeah, that's the number one.
Number
ultraviolet
one, and
radiation.
I'm good with my SPF.
You're good now. You're?
Yes, I am good now. I'm just pointing at Emma so that she shuts up, just in case you wondered what that weird silence was. Your phone did not go dead. It was vaping. What's it? Smoking.
Yeah, smoking.
Smoking kills collagen.
Yeah.
I bet there's a lot of ladies out there, well, men also, but like, I did not know that.
It really kills collagen. It kills collagen for a number of different reasons. And in fact, even if you were somebody who was to come and you were having some surgery on your skin, because smoking cigarettes impacts the wound healing of surgery, you're counselled that you have to reduce beforehand. And it's a combination, a little bit of the nicotine, not that much the nicotine's the problem in that situation, but it's the hydrogen cyanide that's in your cigarettes that you smoke. And that has an impact on the clotting of the blood. And so you're more likely to get infections. But it also does things like reduce oxygen flow to those little tiny small vessels that are on the surface of the skin. And, you can look at somebody's skin who's a chronic smoker and you see their pores are much bigger. They're more likely to get blackheads. The skin is a little bit baggier. And there are some conditions that you only ever see in somebody who smokes and has been outside with ultraviolet radiation.
So collagen, vaping, big no-no.
Collagen cigarettes, big no-no.
Just smoking in general, I know.
But vaping is not as bad as smoking cigarettes.
But it's still bad.
It is still bad.
Terrible.
You don't need to do it.
No, I know.
It's just a habit.
ChatGPT. Future of medical? Is AI going to be big in medical? Like, I self-diagnose on medical all the time on ChatGPT, but then again, you've always told me not to do that. How much should people, use tools like ChatGPT to self-diagnose?
Absolutely not at all.
Oh, okay.
However, if you start to use very specific platforms, so there's AI technology that just will look at lesions. And by a lesion, I mean a kind of mark on your skin. So if you went to your doctor, they saw a mole on your skin, they took an image of that mole using a dermatoscope, which is a magnifying light, and they upload that image into an AI platform. Because that AI platform is trained on so many images, it can then produce a response that says whether this is something that needs to be removed or not. Not quite as good as a very experienced dermatologist, but actually some of the platforms are performing better than a new level entry dermatologist. And remember, a new level entry dermatologist is better than most GPs, most family doctors. So these platforms of AI, I think, are certainly going to be what we're going to be using in the future for a lot of skin lesions.
I have this in my work whereby people are nervous to transpose agreements using AI. So we will database a lot of agreements around musical rights or whatever. And there's a lot of fear around AI, which I actually really resonate towards. But what I'm learning about AI is a member of your staff. The more you train it, the better it will be.
Totally.
And don't let them do anything on their own until you've trained them. So I should also stop self-diagnosing on ChatGPT then.
Yeah, stop that
Okay.
one. I mean, literally, you've got me as your best friend.
I know, but then also when you have a friend that has a specific skill set, they're the last person you ask. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't want to be like, oh, hi. Oh, yeah, so about this mole and about this wrinkle and about this and da-da-da. What causes cellulite? Because there's a whole load of on my backside, like, blah, blah, blah. You can't do any of that. You have to, and also you have to wait through dinner. It's like, okay, I could probably do dessert or maybe cheese. Oh, God. Okay.
Now I'm going to swap this around. I'm going to ask you your questions.
Okay.
They all have a skin theme. What gets under your skin?
Passive aggression, period. Someone is passive aggressive to me, I cannot stand it.
I feel like that came out rather quickly. Have you had a passive aggressive situation this morning?
Not this morning, but it's my Achilles heel. Got something to say, just say it. Or you don't need to say it, so don't say it then. But don't give me the impression you were about to say something that you didn't say. Don't leave it hanging. People that lie,
Okay, I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask you anyway, and I'm sure I've got the right answer. What makes you jump out of your skin?
Frogs. Frogs.
And do you remember we had that villa in Ibiza that had the frog?
We arrived and there was a frog in the pool, like fully alive in the pool, tiny wee thing really. And Emma was trying to be such a good friend. She's like, no, it's fine. I'll just get in the pool and I'll chase it and I'll catch it. So she actually thought she could swim as fast as a frog, which I don't know if you've ever seen a frog do a 30-meter pool, but it's faster than Emma. But when we woke up the next morning, he'd gone. So
I just had a word with him rather than caught him. I know the answer to this one too, because I think there's probably nobody who is as good as this as you are. Are you comfortable in your own skin?
100%.
You're so good.
All day, every day. And you and I have this conversation all the time because, obviously you work in an industry that a part of your business, not the part I know you for, but a part of your business is obviously, beauty's never been bigger nowadays. And the perception of what that beauty is very much, I think, in the eye of the beholder. There's no rules as to what you should or shouldn't look like, and there's trends and all this stuff. But I really am loving aging, and I really resonate weirdly now, whereas I probably dismissed them before, which is my bad. Really fascinated by older women. I'm fascinated by them. Like, what do you know that I don't know? Like, I wrote you off as being like dumpy or frumpy or grey hair, whatever it was, like some arrogant idiot 25-year-old or whatever I was. Now I'm just like, whoa, what do you know? Like, you know stuff that I don't know. They're so wise, and and I'm not young, I'm 50, but like, I'm so fascinated by people's perception of having to cling on, that they are defined by looking a certain way. And I really would love our daughters, their role models to be Maggie Smith and Judi Dench and, all these amazing women that are just personality and talent, obviously, first. And everything else can just hang off it. And if you really don't have that, then you are screwed, because when you get older, it doesn't matter how many dermatologists you will never look like you did as 21. And also, who wants to look like that? Yes, I'm 100% comfortable in my own skin, even though it's a bit saggier than it was.
It's not a bit saggier. But do you think, because I do, that, I mean, it is an external societal pressure that creates that rather than just an internal feeling? Like, yeah. And I think it's predominantly aimed at women.
We're all born from the day, and it's not this generation either. My grandma grew up with film icons that she could look like, and the Queen, and like her hats and her hair and all that stuff. But far more so for women, you do have to channel your inner Taylor Swift. Just have to cast out what it was that you thought was supposed to be happening, because says who? And it's very difficult, because you see thousands of images every day that fit or embellish that story of, you should be this, do that, do the other, look like this, have that, do this, do the other. Why? That's just nonsense to me. But it's very hard not to fall into a scenario where you're like, your instinct will often be the way society taught you, rather than your instinct. The detachment of those two things, to me, are terrifying, and it's part of the psychology of everything that I love to follow.
But you have always been somebody who's so good at instinct. I mean, I do tell you this lots of times, but I don't know anybody who has an instinct like yours. I really don't. And not only that, but the strength to follow that instinct. And it's always right.
Well, it's far from always right, but I can spot a bad boyfriend from my mates 10 miles away. I mean, they never listen to me.
It's deeper than that. Come on. It's trends and everything that you can spot. We actually can all spot those bad boyfriends. I'm even very good at that.
I'm quicker on the draw at that than you.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
Who in your life has saved your skin?
You. My daughter.
Yeah.
My husband?
Yeah.
My husband. I'm gonna let my husband have it, because I feel like he might listen to this and be like, "Excuse me." And obviously, I love you, Dom.
I love you, Dom.
Yeah, my husband actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad, all of you. I'm very lucky. I have an amazing support group.
Well, it's partly actually because you lift us all up. You're a huge kind of supporter of everybody, so that's why people like to do
definitely one of the few
feedback.
people that can tell you to be quiet.
I'm actually going to tell you to be quiet now, because that's the end of the show.
We were just getting started.
That is actually a wrap on today's episode of the After Our Skin Clinic. Huge thanks to Amy for joining me today and really bringing it. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, subscribe and leave us a review, and send in your skincare questions for Amy to ask ChatGPT. All the details are in the show notes. Thanks for joining us. Take care of yourself and your skin, and wear your SPF. Don't vape or smoke, and see you next time at the After Our Skin Clinic. As always, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional before making a change to your treatment.